I just want to make sure the focus goes to the verse we are discussing. Okay, let's go word by word. Is that okay? Supti prabodhayo sandhava atmano gatim atmadrik pashyan bandham cha moksham cha maya matram na vastutah supti prabodhayo sandhava supti prabodhayo sandhava atmano gatim atmadrik atmano gatim atmadrik pashyan bandham cha moksham cha pashyan bandham cha moksham cha maya matram na vastutah maya matram na vastutah supti prabodhayo sandhava atmano gatim atmadrik pashyan bandham cha moksham cha maya matram na vastutah. Please chant. Supti prabodhayo sandhava atmano gatim atmadrik pashyan bandham cha moksham cha maya matram na vastutah. Supti prabodhaya sandhava atmano gatim atmadrik pashyan bandham cha moksham cha maya matram na vastutah. Supti, in the state of unconsciousness. Prabodhayo, and in the state of consciousness. Sandhau, in the state of marginal existence. Atmanaha, of oneself. Gatim, the movement. Atmadrik, one who can actually see the self. Pashyan, always trying to see or understand. Bandham, the conditional state of life. Cha, and moksham, the liberated state of life. Cha, also. Maya matram, only illusion. Na, not. Vastutah, in fact. Translation by His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki. During unconsciousness and consciousness, and between the two, he should try to understand the self and be fully situated in the self. In this way, he should realize that the conditional and liberated stages of life are only illusory and not actually factual. With such a higher understanding, he should see only the absolute truth pervading everything. Before we read the purport, I just want to maintain the sequence. So the sequence starts from text number 26. So I'm going to read the translations and then we'll come to this verse and then we'll read the purport. So this is 7th canto 12th chapter verses 26 through 28. Thereafter, the object of speech, along with the sense of speech, the tongue, should be bestowed upon fire, craftsmanship, and the two hands should be given to the demigod Indra. The power of movement and the legs should be given to Lord Vishnu. Sensual pleasure, along with the genitals, should be bestowed upon Prajapati. The rectum with the power of evacuation should be bestowed in its proper place unto Mrityu. The oral instrument, along with sound vibration, should be given to the deities presiding over the directions. The instrument of touch, along with the sense objects of touch, should be given to Vayu. Form, with the power of sight, should be bestowed upon the sun. The tongue, along with the demigod Varun, should be bestowed upon water, and the power of smell, along with the two Ashwini Kumar demigods, should be bestowed upon the earth. Translations for 29 through 30. The mind, along with all material desires, should be merged into the moon, in the moon demigod. All the subject matters of intelligence, along with the intelligence itself, should be placed in Lord Brahma. False ego, which is under the influence of the material modes of nature and which induces one to think, I am this body and everything connected with this body is mine, should be merged along with material activities in Rudra, the predominating deity of false ego. Material consciousness, along with the goal of thought, should be merged in the individual living being, and the demigods acting under the modes of material nature should be merged along with the perverted living being into the supreme being. The earth should be merged in water, water in the brightness of the sun, the brightness into the air into the sky into the false ego into the total material energy into the unmanifested ingredients, the pradhan feature of the material energy, and at last the ingredient feature of material manifestation into the super soul. When all the material designations have thus merged into their respective material elements, the living beings, who are all ultimately completely spiritual, being one in quality with the Supreme Being, should cease from material existence as flames cease when the wood in which they are burning is consumed. When the material body is returned to its various material elements, only the spiritual being remains. This spiritual being is Brahman and is equal in quality with Para Brahman. This point to be noted. It's going to be useful. Okay, now we are starting text number 1 onwards from chapter 13 of the 7th canto. Sri Narad Muni said, a person able to cultivate spiritual knowledge should renounce all material connections and merely keeping the body inhabitable. He should travel from one place to another, passing only one night in each village. In this way, without dependence in regard to the needs of the body, the sannyasi should travel all over the world. A person in the renounced order of life may try to avoid even a dress to cover himself. If he wears anything at all, it should be only a loin cloth. And when there is no necessity, a sannyasi should not even accept a danda. A sannyasi should avoid carrying anything but a danda and kamandulu. The sannyasi, completely satisfied in the self, should live on alms begged from door to door. Not being dependent on any person or any place, he should always be a friendly well-wisher to all living beings and be a peaceful, unalloyed devotee of Narayana. In this way, he should move from one place to another. The sannyasi should always try to see the Supreme pervading everything and see everything, including this universe, resting on the Supreme. Now we come to today's verse, which is verse number 5. During unconsciousness and consciousness, and between the two, he should try to understand the self and be fully situated in the self. In this way, he should realize that the conditional and liberated stages of life are only illusory and not actually factual. With such a higher understanding, he should see only the absolute truth pervading everything. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. The unconscious state is nothing but ignorance, darkness, or material existence, and in the conscious state, one is awake. The marginal state between consciousness and unconsciousness, he has no permanent existence. Therefore, one who is advanced in understanding the self should understand that unconsciousness and consciousness are but illusions, for they fundamentally do not exist. Only the Supreme Absolute Truth exists. As confirmed by the Lord in Bhagavad Gita 9.4, Maya tatam idam sarvam jagat avyakt murtina matsthani sarva bhutani nachaham teshva avastita. By me, in my unmanifested form, this entire universe is pervaded. All beings are in me, but I am not in them. Everything exists on the basis of Krishna's impersonal feature. Nothing can exist without Krishna. Therefore, the advanced devotee of Krishna can see the Lord everywhere without illusion. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam yena tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam yena bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shrivas Adi Gaura Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Okay. First of all, I would like to seek your blessings and prayers so that whatever I am speaking today is beneficial for all of us. Interestingly, today is the first time I'm speaking at ISKCON Boston Temple in a Bhagavatam class. I had an interesting dialogue with my elder daughter. So I told her, tomorrow I have to give Bhagavatam class in the temple. So her immediate response was, oh, they didn't find anybody else? I said, yeah, that's exactly right. They couldn't find anybody else. That's why I happen to be here. All right, so today's verse is an interesting verse. It's a little difficult to understand also. First of all, it is depicting the behavioral characteristics of a sannyasi. The whole big picture is that Narad Muni is speaking to Yudhishthir Maharaj, and he's enlightening Yudhishthir Maharaj on the principles of Varnashrama Dharma. Interesting thing to note here in this section, he doesn't follow the normal logical sequence, brahmachari, grihastha, vanaprastha, and then sannyas. He follows the order of brahmachari, then vanaprastha, and then goes to sannyas, and then he comes to grihastha. Because he wants to make sure that there is sufficient amount of spirit of renunciation already built up before one gets into the subject matter of grihastha. Because after all, we are talking about ashram. Ashram means what? It's a place for spiritual cultivation. So it doesn't matter whether one is a brahmachari, a grihastha, vanaprastha, or sannyasi. The goal is self-realization, not sense gratification. So that is put in the center point of this whole discussion. So the verses that we were reading first, like the 26 onwards, they were talking about the life of a vanaprastha. So starting from this chapter onwards, when Narad Muni starts saying a person able to cultivate spiritual knowledge should renounce all material connections. This is where the description of the sannyas ashram begins. Okay, just to kind of set the context. And as you heard, that Narad Muni is emphasizing that the goal of a sannyasi should be, first of all, being completely engaged in his own spiritual cultivation through, rigorous study of the scriptures, and then also distributing the knowledge to the human society. And therefore, there are two qualifications that are mentioned later on in the 15th chapter. You will see Narad Muni will talk about, it comes through Srila Prabhupada's purports. There are two ways you can actually understand whether you're ready for sannyas ashram or not. The first way you can understand is when you are completely free from all lusty desires. Okay, that's number one. And second is that you need to be established in Brahman, which means that you need to be full with the knowledge of Brahman. When these two conditions are satisfied, then one is eligible to take to the sannyas ashram. So therefore, you can relate to, in this section, Narad Muni is emphasizing the sannyasi is not dependent on anybody. He is just focusing on his own spiritual development, and then he is giving his association to the humanity so that they can be uplifted. So he is going from door to door, as it is stated, live on alms, begging door to door, but he is not dependent on any person or any place. And he is just a simple, friendly, well-wishing friend of all living beings. Okay, So this is the overall backdrop. So now coming to today's verse, Supti Prabhodayo Sandhava. This verse is a little difficult to understand. I actually had to go through the Sridhar Swami's commentary, which I have to use. Interestingly, Sridhar Swami's commentary doesn't exist in English, so it has to be understood from Sanskrit. But it is important because it's going to actually tie up all the pieces together. So you can see what is stated here, the Supti Prabhadayo Sandhava. So we are talking about the in-between stage, right? Supti means the awake stage. No, sorry. Supti means the state of unconsciousness or sleeping state. Prabhadayo means the awake state. Sandhava means that which comes in between. How much time do I have?
9:30.
Oh, 9:30. Okay. Because there is a lot of actually pieces to this. I just want to make sure I do enough justice to this verse. Okay. So Supti Prabodhaya Sandhava, right? So three things are mentioned. So Supti, sleeping, Prabodhaya is awake state, and Sandhava is in between. So it is pointed out that as far as the person who is Atmadrik means what? One who is able to see their own spiritual self, Atmadrik. And for them, what is the goal? Atmanogatihi. So here, Atmanaha can be understood to be self or the super self. Like there is a slightly different way in which this particular word gets interpreted in this translation and in Sridhar Swami's commentary. But you can understand, like if the goal is self-realization, you can easily synthesize that Atmana can mean Parabrahman or Brahman. That's fine. Okay. So Pashyan Bandham cha Moksham cha. The most difficult part is this. Okay. So Pashyan means they are actually seeing their own spiritual existence. But what is making it difficult is that Bandham cha Moksham cha Maya Matram na Vastutaha. So both the conditional and the liberated stages of life are seen as illusory. How is the liberated stage seen as illusory and not actually factual? Of course, one can say Brahma Satyam Jagan Mithya. It's almost going in that track, All that exists is Brahman. But we as devotees, we understand that everything has a foundation because of its inherent connection with Krishna. It's because Krishna is there in the bigger picture, so therefore everything has a meaning. And when things are seen disconnected from Krishna, then it takes the shape and form of Maya. Right? So that's the overall big picture we can keep in mind. So now let's see how Srila Prabhupada is translating. So during unconsciousness and consciousness and between the two, right? So there are three things that are mentioned. So unconsciousness referring to the Supti, consciousness referring to Prabhadayo, and in between the two is Sandhava, right? He should try to understand the self and be fully situated in the self. In this way, he should realize that conditional and liberated stages are only illusory and not factual. This is the part we will have to understand a little more. With such a higher understanding, he should see the absolute truth pervading everything. And that is kind of derived from the previous verse where the whole vision of a sannyasi is painted. The sannyasi should always try to see the Supreme pervading everything and see everything, including this universe, resting on the Supreme. Okay. So now let's also bring the 6th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita into perspective, because this has been very nicely elaborated by Krishna. How exactly the vision of a transcendentalist get formed, like as seeing the Supreme Lord everywhere. Let me ask you something first. In the 6th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, where does Krishna say who is the best of all yogis? 6.47 comes to mind, right? But there is one more verse where Krishna says that this is the person who is the best of all yogis. Can you tell me which one? No? Okay, this is a little bit of quiz because this is the section where Krishna is bringing out the vision of a transcendentalist. This comes just before Arjuna expresses, yo ayam toya proktah, yo ayam yogas toya proktah, samyena madhusudana. Etasyam na pashyami chanchalatvat sitim sthiram. That I just don't see any firm foundation of what you have presented, because after all the mind is flickering, it's uncontrollable. So I cannot do this. It's all unendurable and impractical as far as I'm concerned. Just the verse before this. What is the verse? Atma pammena sarvatra samam pashyati yo Arjuna sukham va yadi va dukkham sa yogi paramo mataha. Krishna says that yogi is the greatest yogi. Who? Atma pammena, when they are seeing through the lens of their spiritual self, samam pashyati sarvatra, they are seeing the true equality of all beings. Doesn't matter what their own personal situations are. Sukham va yadi va dukkham, whether in the happy condition or in the sad condition, they are maintaining that equal vision. Even if somebody is acting as very critical towards you, or somebody is acting very nicely towards you, it doesn't matter. Sukham va yadi va dukkham samam pashyati Arjuna. So Krishna is saying, sa yogi paramo mataha. But this verse comes in a sequence. So note the sequence. So this is developed basically by Krishna talking about the vision of a transcendentalist. So he starts by saying, Sarva bhutastham atmanam sarva bhutani cha atmani ikshate yoga yuktatma sarvatra samadarshanaha. So what is the basis for seeing the equality around, like samadarshana, everywhere the yogi is saying this, he is maintaining that equal vision. So Krishna is explaining sarva bhutastham atmanaha. He is saying this. What is the translation of that atmanaha? It's actually, that atmana is the parabrahman. And that will become clear more and more as we move forward. Sarva bhutastham, bhutastham means wherever you find life, right? This material manifestation. Sarva bhutastham, you're finding atmanam. You're finding there is an atma, the soul of the universe. And sarva bhutani cha atmani. And in everyone, there is that same spiritual being present within all of us. Right? So you can see there is a soul of the universe who is there in every aspect of the creation. And that same soul is also present within us. So ikshate yoga yuktatma. How can one get that vision? When there is yukta atma. When one is engaged in devotional service. When one is engaged in devotional service, then one can have that vision. So that ikshate yoga yuktatma is important there. I'm relating to this usage of the atmana here. That's the correlation here. And on that basis, sarvatra, wherever that person goes, samadarshana. He has that equality of vision. So things are still not clear. So then Krishna says, Yo mam pashyati sarvatra sarvam cha mai pashyati. Tasyaham na pranashyami sacha me na pranashyati. So Krishna is saying, now he is talking about himself. Yo mam pashyati sarvatra. Previous verse was the soul of the universe, right? Almost like Parabrahman or Brahman. This one he is saying, Yo mam pashyati sarvatra. Those who are able to see me, sarvatra. Sarvam cha mai pashyati. And everything is resting on me. Then what? Tasya aham na pranashyami. I am not lost for that person, ever. But that is fine. The last part is the most critical. Sacha me na pranashyati. And that soul is also not lost for me. In other words, this relationship is reciprocal. Krishna really cares. It's Krishna who is actually reciprocating with that soul, because of which that soul has this transcendental vision. And things become even more clear in the next verse when he says that Sarva Bhuta Sthita Yo Mam Bhajatya Ekatvam Astitaha. You see what Krishna did? He's saying that Sarva Bhuta Sthitam, previously Sarva Bhutastam Atmanam. This time Sarva Bhuta Sthitam Yo Mam. Okay? Bhajatya Ekatvam. Understanding that super soul which was talked about in the previous verse, like 2 verses ago, and I, like, Yomam Pashati Sarvatra, they are one. Bhajatya Ekatvam Astitaha. So now you are seeing that personality is no different from the person who is dwelling in the heart. Then what happens is that Sarvatha Vartamano Api Sa Yogi Mai Vartate. So this word is important. Sarvatha, not Sarvatra. Sarvatha means what? In all circumstances of life, including the present moment. Vartamano Api Sa Yogi Mai Vartate. In every phase of life, that yogi is only chasing after me. Mai Vartate. Nobody else. And then after that, now you can relate to that Atma Pammena Sarvatra Samam Pashyatiyo. So this verse has a context. So when you have that context, and what is the context? Yoga Yuktatma. Because that person is engaged in the devotional service, by virtue of that, one is getting a reciprocation back from Krishna, and because of which they have this transcendental vision. And the same thing has been stated here. So that's the vision of a sannyasi. Sannyasi should always try to see the Supreme pervading everything, right? And see everything, including this universe, resting on the Supreme. Exactly the same point that is being made, right? Okay. Now let's try to understand today's verse through the lens of Sridhar Swami's commentary, because this is going to enlighten us quite a bit. So he says that Nanva Atmanam Param Brahmeti Katham Samana Adhikaranya Nirdeshaha. So how is it possible that Atmanam and Parabrahma Samana Adhikaranya Nirdesha, how can they become equal? It's not possible. So he's saying Nahi Baddha Muktayor Aikyam Sambhavati. It is not possible for the Baddha and the Mukta to become equal, Baddha and Mukta Aikyam Sambhavati. It's not possible. And then he starts explaining. So he draws our attention to the word Susupti first. So in this verse, there is no usage of the word Susupti. There is only usage of the word Supti, which is sleeping stage. Susupti is generally refers to as deep sleep state. Okay. So Susuptau hi tamasa vritam atma tattva. So what happens when one is in deep sleep? So he's saying that one is totally covered by tamas, pure darkness, covered over by ignorance. Susuptau hi tamasa vritam atma tattvam. So there is no question of atma tattva at that time. Just imagine yourself sleeping, deep sleep. What is covering us? The mode of ignorance is covering us at that time. Second phase is Jagrata Swapnayos. So he's talking about two kinds of possibilities. Either one is Jagrata or Swapnayos, which means dreaming state. Are you clear? So he's talking about either the wakeful stage or in the dreaming stage. In both the cases, what is active? Subtle body is active. Mind is active. So in that stage, so he's saying Jagrata Swapnayos tu Vikshiptam Prakashayate. At that time, one is going through Vikshipta. Vikshipta means what? Distraction. It's the mental distraction stage. Right now, when we are moving around, we are operated by our conditional mind, and therefore we are distracted. Same with when we are dreaming, not in deep sleep. When we are in a dreaming stage, mind is active. We are going through distractions. So that's what he's saying. So he's talking about two different possibilities. Either you are susupti stage, you are deep sleep, in which case you are covered by ignorance, or you are in the wakeful or in the dreaming stage, in which case you are distracted because of the influence of the mind. Clear so far? Okay. Now he's going into Sandhav. Sandhav tu means what? But. However, Sandhav tu na tamo na api vikshepaha. This is the important clarification. At the time of that sandhi, which means it is at the juncture of, let's say you are going from sleeping to wakeful stage or wakeful stage to the sleeping stage. That's considered to be the sandho. Okay? Sandho na tu na tamo na api vikshepaha. You are neither under the influence of ignorance nor under the influence of distraction. This is the reason why I was reading the Sridhar Swami's commentary, because that point, without that you cannot understand this verse. And then he's going to quote, okay? So then he says, Atas tada atmadrik. Now he's using the words that are used in this verse. Atah means therefore, tada means at that time. At that time means at the juncture. Atmadrik atmanam lakshi kritva. So one is able to then keep that Atmanam or the Parabrahman. We established already that point, that Atmanam is referring to Parabrahman. Those who are Atmadrik, who are having the vision of the Atma, that person is able to keep that Parabrahman as their goal. Right? That's what is stated. Atah tada Atmadrik Atmanam lakshi kritva. Lakshi kritva means keeping that as the goal. Sthitah san Atmano gatim. And in this way, by situated in that platform, sad atmano gatim. In this way, they can also go to that destination. And tatvam pashyam. And they are able to see the truth as it is. Right? Atayeva bandham moksham cha maya matram. And therefore, he is saying, the perception of bandham and moksham is simply maya matram. So how are we deriving that point? That the perception of bandham and moksham is maya matram, or it's simply illusory. Because what is bandham? Bandham is you are bound by the conditions of this material world. Moksham is what? The perception of having freedom from miseries. Either you are bound, entangled, in which case you are locked into miserable life, or you are experiencing sort of freedom from miseries. The point that has been made is that if that experience is either coming in the wakeful stage, right, in the time when you are under the influence of the mind in the wakeful stage, or under the influence of the mind in the dreaming stage, it's just hallucination. It's not reality. And likewise, if you're in the deep sleep, you're under the covering of the ignorance. Anyways, you don't have a perception of either bandham or moksham. But when you have a perception, you are under the influence of the mind or the mental distortions, and therefore that is illusory. So this is how Sridhar Goswami explains, and then he quotes Tad Uktam Yoga Granthe. He is quoting a yoga scripture here. And this verse is very interesting. He says that Nidra adau jagarasyante yo bhava upajayate tam bhavam bhavayan nityam mochayate naitaro yatihi. Who is yatihi? Yatihi means who is the transcendentalist, who is trying to keep himself on the spiritual track. That is yatihi, right? This word yati is used so many times in Srimad Bhagavad Gita. Can you give an example? Yeah, but I'm saying yati is generally endeavoring transcendentalist. That's the way you can look at it. What is that? Manushyanam saraseshu kaschit yatatam. Right? Yatati siddhe. And yatatam api siddhanam kaschit mam vetti tatvatah. So yati means one who is endeavoring transcendentalist. So, yep. So there's so many verses that can be quoted there to establish who is a yati. Okay. So what is being described here is nidra adau. Nidra adau means? No, adau means just at the beginning point, juncture. There are two juncture points. That's what is painted here. Nidra adau, just on the threshold of falling asleep. And jagarasyante. Jagarasya means you woke up, but ante means you are just in the phase of falling asleep. So you see that you catch the two junctures. Either you're getting into the mode of sleep or you're just waking up. Nidra. Jagarasya ante nidra adau. Actually, both are actually painting to the same point, like which is at the time when you are getting from wakeful state to the sleeping stage. Okay, but that's how the words are capturing. They're not capturing the coming out of sleep stage. Okay, they're capturing the point when you are getting into the sleep. Is it clear? So nidra adau jagarasya ante yo bhava upajayate. At that time, whatever state of existence you have, whatever bhav you have, tam bhavam, that bhavayan means experiencing that state of consciousness, nityam. One who is a yati, they all the time experience that bhav, which is at the point, at the threshold of going into that sleeping stage. It's neither, awake nor sleeping. So nityam muchyate, so that person then becomes completely free. Na itara means it's not possible for any other state. That's the point that is being made by Sridhar Swami through this. So you got the picture now? So let's try to use an analogy to drive home the point. So let's imagine sun. Okay. Now sunlight is there, you can see everything, great. Think about the cloudy day when the sun ray is not really coming, you're just filled with cloud. That's like when you're suffering from mental distractions. Mind is taking over, you do not have a vision, clear vision. It's a cloud covered sky. And the second possibility is what? The second possibility is the night time when it's complete darkness. So that's like deep sleep. And the third possibility is like at the threshold when the sun is just rising. At that time you get the very nice view of the sunlight expanding everywhere. So that the stage, that is what is being described as the sandhau. That's the time when the experience of a transcendentalist comes through, who is practicing yoga, right? Because that is quoted from the yogic scriptures. I hope that gives you some idea of what this verse is talking about. And therefore, now you can make sense of everything that has been stated here, because Srila Prabhupada summarizes this by saying, therefore, the advanced devotee of Krishna can see the Lord everywhere without illusion. So therefore, as far as the devotee or a transcendentalist is concerned, it is not important whether one is experiencing bandha or moksha, whether one is experiencing that, okay, I'm getting like covered over by miseries and what a miserable life, or one is experiencing freedom from miseries. That's completely irrelevant. What matters is whether you are conscious of Krishna or not, whether you're able to see Krishna through every phase of your life or not. So let's paint that picture more clearly in practical terms. What does that mean? So for that, you have to refer to the 5th chapter, because 5th chapter is the best chapter which talks about how a transcendentalist is able to experience that, experience Krishna in the material world. So how does that go? Like this comes after the Pandita Samadarshana verse, which is 5.18. 5.19 onwards, Krishna starts talking about, again, what is the experience of a transcendentalist. He says that ihaiva ter jitas sarga samam pashyati sarvatra. No. Yesham samye sthitam manaha. Yesham samye, again the same word samam is used, because in the previous verse Krishna already talked about samadarshina, panditaha samadarshina, right? Therefore he is saying that ihaiva ter jitas sargaha yesham samye sthitam manaha, and then nirdosham hi samam brahma. So I'm just trying to give you an understanding of what the Brahman realized person experiences, because that's more practical. Like, okay, we can talk about the threshold of the sleeping and the wakefulness. That doesn't satisfy us completely. So we have to kind of see in practical terms, how does it manifest? And that's where we have to kind of refer to the most important aspect that comes through and throughout the Bhagavad Gita is this equal vision. It's everywhere, the samam. So here also, yesham samye sthitam manaha. And then nirdosham he samam brahma. One is again able to now see from that platform Brahma. And then it is expressed tasmat brahmani te stitaha. Te stitaha. This one is a plural for some reason. Tasmat brahmani te stitaha. The first thing that comes is sameness or equality. Okay. Then after that, Krishna talks about what happens then. That na prahrishyet priyam